Welcome to the Invested Agents podcast. I've been going back to, or at least in yesterday's episode, talked about the humble beginnings and how I got started in real estate and ended up finding my way to this real estate boot camp teaching how to invest in pre-foreclosures. And so I've got no money, no job or anything, but I see this bandit sign that says mentor seeking or millionaire seeking mentee, and I decided to call it. And this guy, he was like basically saying, hey, I can teach you how to invest in pre-foreclosures or buy pre-foreclosures at like 50 cents on the dollar. And I didn't know what to know. I didn't know what to trust, so I just went with it. I think it was like $1,500, which is your standard weekend boot camp, but not having any money, that was a lot of money to me. I did have a credit card. I'm not saying you should do this, but ultimately I decided to go ahead and make the leap, paid for it. And it was, this is the summer of 2004. It was the previous winter that I'd read Rich Dad Poor Dad. So about 6 months later, I now am in a boot camp and learning about pre-foreclosures, and this was in San Antonio, Texas. So essentially what he taught is go in, get all the public data for properties or foreclosures, and figure out the properties that are filter them by the properties that are 15 years or maybe it was 20 years or older, because or not the properties, but the mortgage. The mortgage is at least 15 or 20 years. Because that has given enough time for debt pay down and then also appreciation, making it where you should be able to buy it cheap enough to make a profit, get the seller some money, and account for any repairs. At least that's a pretty good rule of thumb. So that's what I did. But this is 2004, and most counties, most government institutions are not online yet, but Bexar County was. I think Bexar County was one of the first counties in the state of Texas or in the nation to go completely online. So in my dorm room at Texas A&M in College Station, Texas, I'm researching pre-foreclosures in San Antonio. And what we would do is we would take all the properties, and we get this big map. We'd filter them out, basically the properties that we thought would be good, or at least fit the basic criteria. And then we took out this huge MapSco map, because Google Maps didn't exist. And this big map of San Antonio, and we draw dots all the way around the city for all the property addresses, because we had to actually look it up. And we would draw a path, a line for the most efficient path to go through all these properties and see them all in the shortest amount of time. And we'd plan our route, and then early on Saturday morning, we'd get in the car, drive over there, and start knocking on doors. And then we'd come back, because we didn't have money for a hotel, come back, and then we would do the same thing on Sunday if we still had properties on our list. And we did this every single day for 4 months before we got the first deal. So I remember the very first house I actually knocked on, because they had their front door was open, and they had their clear glass storm door closed. And I remember knocking on the door, and there's an adult sitting on the couch, which I can clearly see down the hallway, sitting on the couch watching TV. And he just looks at me, and then just sits back and doesn't even pay attention. He doesn't mind me any more attention. So, which is a little awkward for me, because I'm like 20 years old, 145 pounds, skinny little college kid. I mean, what am I supposed to be doing there? It was kind of awkward and also kind of funny at the same time. But anyway, so that was the routine. We just do that every single weekend, knocking on doors, sending out mailers, and seeing if we could research their phone number from my dorm room. And then finally, 4 months in, we're basically, I think this is the last house or one of the last houses on the list. And we're actually exhausted. We're like, hey, maybe we'll just skip this one and go home. And I remember thinking that, but we didn't, and ended up going to the house, knocking on the door, and this man walks out. And we just say, hey, my name is Chris. I just came by to see if maybe we could help you out with the house situation. And he looks at us and he goes, how can you help me? And I remember the feeling of like, oh crap, like we've spent so much time on like what to say and how to actually get in the front door. And like now he's like letting us in the front door and he's asking us, hey, how can we help him? What do we do next? And we ended up setting an appointment or talking with him a little bit about what we could do, setting an appointment to come back and meet him with our mentor to help close the deal. And that's what we did. We got it all set up. Mentor came out because his agreement was, hey, if you bring me a deal, like we can JV it and split the proceeds, which was cool for me because I didn't have any money, any credit, and I don't think anyone was going to loan me any money either. So ended up getting there, doing the inspection through the house. It did have a pretty big foundation issue, and then we sat down and kind of went over his situation. And I don't remember the exact numbers, but I think he owed about $7,000 in the house. It wasn't a lot. His wife had passed away a few years back. She was the breadwinner, and I think he was sick and he wasn't able to work, and just everything was kind of cratering in. And he just wanted to walk away. He didn't even want anything. And that's not what we were going to do. So we ended up getting him where he can get, I think it was like 10 or 15,000 or so, that he'd get at closing, because he wanted enough money to get him a used car or a little used truck or something, because his current vehicle was breaking down, and that's what he would be happy with. We can just like get rid of the problem, help him get a new truck. So we made that happen for him. And, it was a tremendously valuable learning experience, because now I not only knew what to do from the marketing and the hustle standpoint, but also how to actually negotiate, acquire, and then dispose of the deals. We actually closed on it, and then he ended up wholetailing it to another investor, I guess, that was going to flip it. So that's what we did. It was a very, very valuable learning experience. And, I'm sure I would have figured it out if the mentor, like if we didn't take that class and if he didn't help us out with the deal, doing the JV, but it may have taken a little bit longer. So I was thankful. And his name was Richard Pamplin. I think he may still be doing some training for real estate agents or real estate investors. I'm not sure, but I've kept in loose tabs with him over the years. So anyway, yeah, pre-foreclosure, that's how I got started, and went from there. That was the only deal that I did with him. But we kept in touch, and I since graduated, and I'll talk more about my story in another podcast, but after that deal, did do a couple more in San Antonio, and then in Waco, and then finally into Houston. So share your deal, your first deal, whether it was your actual traditional agent deal where you're representing a buyer or seller, or if it was an investment deal. Share it down below and just kind of like what the deal, like what was it? How did you find it? Well, do you remember what price you got? Did you get it from a knocking on doors, or was there a mailer? Pre-foreclosure, was it an absentee? What did you learn from the deal? Was it successful? Kind of share your thoughts on your first deal down below. Hopefully we got through this episode without any more technical glitches. I will be back on Facebook Live, should be tomorrow, and we'll talk about maybe the second deal. Maybe we got something else coming up, but we'll definitely go into the other deals as I progress through this real estate journey. See you next time.